What is up, Bills Mafia? Matt Parrino here inside Hard Rock Stadium in Miami Gardens, Florida, where the Buffalo Bills dropped a heartbreaker 21-19, had a chance to win in the fourth quarter. We were going to get into so much of this game here tonight on Shout, a Buffalo football podcast brought to you, as always, by Tops Markets. Falling leaves and crisp weather means it's Tops' favorite time of the year, tailgate season. I have a feeling, Ryan Talbot, that when people are tailgating for the Miami game in Buffalo, Orchard Park, in a few months, it might be a little bit of a different situation. You can win the ultimate tailgate accessory from Tops just by purchasing brands you already love. We're going to get into this game. Ryan, it's funny. If I told you going into this thing, Tyreek Hill only has 2 catches. Tua Tagovailoa only throws for 200 yards, and I believe it was 1 touchdown. I'm going to bring up the actual stat sheet here because I want to kind of take a look at it as we go through all of this stuff. I think that you probably would have told you the Bills win that game no matter what. They didn't. Obviously, a couple blunders at the end of the game. The one maybe most funny on the Dolphins end when the punter kicked the ball off the butt of one of the players. We'll talk about that too. But your biggest takeaway of why the Bills now sit here at 2-1.
Yeah, offensive miscues, mistakes that they made throughout this game. If I had to pinpoint down to one thing, though, Matt, I think I would go with the offensive line and how depleted it was by the end of this game. You look at where the Bills had the ball around right near the end zone late in that game, and instead of having Josh Allen under center, he was in the shotgun because you were on your second and third lineman. You mentioned in your article, they didn't have any reserves left on the bench by the end of this one. So they were worried about the snap and the handling of the snap. I mean, that was proven true at halftime when there was a botch there and Allen wasn't able to spike it for a field goal attempt. And instead of maybe using Allen for a quarterback sneak where he most likely gets in on one of those run attempts, he's in the shotgun. It leads to some bad plays. Buffalo had multiple opportunities. Do not get me wrong. But at the end of the day, this is going to go down as a loss for the team, and they're going to have to kind of learn from those mistakes, Matt.
Yeah, and I think you go into this thing and you just kind of make the laundry list of things that the Bills were dealing with, the adversity that Von Miller was talking about after the game. I mean, losing Micah Hyde just in and of itself a couple days before this game, it's this, a really big game. Now, the Bills played 2 big games, like primetime games to start the season. So, but this was an AFC East test, and this, I think, the first one where, there was some real hype on the other side, like a changing of the guard. We've seen so many stories around the NFL in the first couple of weeks. Look what Jacksonville is doing out right now in the AFC. It's unbelievable. There's some really upstart programs in the NFL right now, and Miami is definitely one of them. Now, I think I leave this game being a little bit more underwhelmed with them as a potential, threat in the AFC than maybe I was, during the week and trying to, really dive into what last week meant. But you lose Micah Hyde going into this game when, Deion Dawkins, I thought, put up really nice after the game and, in a really humanizing way of what he means. And it's more than just football. I mean, he was talking about what he felt in his neck and, you're one play away then, with what he was playing with from maybe like never being able to move again, right? Like those are serious parts of this game, the physical aspect of it. And then you get into the game. And you come in without 6 starters to start. Then you lose 4 more during the game. At one point, Isaiah McKenzie, who took 2 IVs during the week, had to take an IV during the game, and he was throwing up in between the second and third quarter and the halftime. This guy lives in Florida year round. So it was a situation where you saw Spencer Brown hunched over, Stephon Diggs at one point hunched over. The Bills were on the far sideline from the press box. The sun was beating down on them, and the Miami Dolphins, probably by design, were kind of in the shade along with the majority of the stadium. And I just think there was just too many things for them to overcome. And at the end, they just couldn't make enough plays. And, the clock running out there and McKenzie not hitting, getting out of bounds probably saved the Dolphins because who knows, Tyler Bass comes in. I think he's almost better from beyond 50 than he is inside of 50 yards. So that could have been a game-winning field goal try.
Yeah, Josh Allen said after the game the Bills really beat themselves, and I know some Dolphins fans, I see some here in the chat, are probably saying that sounds like sore loser talk. But go throughout that game. I already mentioned the failed snap at halftime where he wasn't able to then spike it into the ground. It would have been an intentional grounding at that point. You look at Gabe Davis dropping a touchdown, Matt Milano dropping a pick six. The fact that Leslie Frazier decided to only rush 3 on a 3rd and 22 play. Rather than force Tua to get the ball out quickly and stop the receivers short of the markers, little things like that. There's probably 5 or 6 different plays that if the Bills execute, missed field goal by Tyler Bass, they end up leaving this game with the win. I'm right there with you. Yes, Miami wins this game, but it took them every second of regulation to get a 2-point victory against a very depleted Bills roster. So, this was a huge game for Dolphins and their fans. Bills had tormented them the last 4 seasons with Josh Allen going 7-1. They're 3-0 now. Do I still think they're up there with the Bills, the Chiefs, and some of these other supreme teams of the AFC or even some of the supreme teams of the NFL? I don't. Maybe they'll end up proving me wrong in that regard, but I just don't see that them having enough talent to really be in the conversation for a Super Bowl at the end of the season, Matt.
Mm-hmm. And I want to point out Mike Greenberg from ESPN. He said, his quote on Twitter was, "I love how upset Josh Allen and the Bills were about losing today. That was a tough spot, short week, on the road in the heat. Didn't even mention the injuries. Quote unquote, they're still the best team in the sport." And honestly, I leave this game still thinking that. And I think part of the problem today too, Ryan, was Gabe Davis, coming back and playing close to home. He went to UCF, which is a couple hours away. Might have not been ready to go, but they were, they needed somebody, right? They needed these offensive weapons. They thought it was going to potentially be a shootout with all the pieces missing on defense. And I thought that Gabe Davis looked like he was at times laboring a little bit. I think he would love to have that play back, especially against Keon Crosser. I had never heard of the cornerback that he was one-on-one with in the end zone before. But that's a play that's a got to have it play, right? In a game like this. Matt Milano, that interception I wrote in my story is going to be one that he plays back every time that they get ready for the Dolphins on film. And he just is going to be just livid with himself because he is going to probably pull when they pull up the tape tomorrow in the Bills meeting room, he's going to pull a Ken Dorsey, whatever's it around him at his desk or in the building, he's to start throwing stuff. That was pretty entertaining. But that goes to show you, I mean, these guys were not kidding when they talked about the competitive nature of Ken Dorsey up in that room. And they were so close with all the adversity they faced going into this game. They were so close on a bunch of different plays and obviously on the final drive. I want to segue really quick into our Toolsy player of the game. We give it out wins. We give it out in losses. Value Home Centers. Right now, you can head over to their website, valuehomecenters.com. They have their weekly ad. There's a deal on a drill made by DeWalt. There's some paint deals going on. You can even get a grill if you want here right before we head into the late fall months and early winter. But we're going to hand out our Value Toolsy player of the game, Ryan Talbot. Who are you going to go with for the Bills?
Josh Allen's the easy choice, so I'm going to go away from that. I'm going Greg Rousseau. Rousseau has been a force early this season. Did I take your pick there, Matt Parrino?
You did.
I saw
you took my pick. And here's the funny thing about that is that I was thinking as I was lining this up, it's like, all right, I'm going to line this up and then I'm going to do my player so I can take him first so he doesn't steal him from me. But I thought, you know what?
You're too gracious.
I made you wait a little while.
That's
I wanted to give you that opportunity. So.
Yeah, no, he's been a force, Matt. You can line him up inside, outside. He's been producing each week. He had 1.5 sacks today. He had some nice stops as well for this team. He was one of those handful of Bills players that I thought really played well in this matchup despite the loss. Other than, I guess, Greg Rousseau, who are you going to give the Toolsy player of the game to, Matt?
Right. You're right. You're like Russo. I wanted to give it to him. I thought it was almost fitting that in his, home city, the way that he played today and was the sole bringer of the chaos back there. Really. I mean, Von Miller had the big play in the fourth quarter when he tipped the pass from Tua, forced the punt. Like that was a monster play on a win. But I thought Rousseau had a couple plays during the game where, whether it was against the run or against the pass, I thought he was really good. But let me give the Toolsy player of the game to Devin Singletary, leading the Bills in receptions, 9 for 78. He had the one of the 2 receiving touchdowns in the game, and then he sprinkled in only 9 carries for 13 yards. Zach Moss got off the schneid in a big way with a big 43-yard run in the second half. But I thought Singletary was a really nice outlet, a really nice weapon for Josh Allen in the passing game today. And that's going to be something that they have to lean on in games when teams are taking away the second and third level. Having Singletary, who I think Bills are starting to learn, like, all right, get him on the field, keep him on the field. And it doesn't even have to be necessarily anything anti-Zach Moss. I know that the Bills early in that first quarter, Bills fans were kind of, swearing at Zach Moss as they ran him 2 times and it didn't go very well. But I think it's more about letting one of these backs, and right now Singletary is just in, the driver's seat in that back room, that backfield, letting him get the ball and get comfortable in a game, and then maybe lean on a Zach Moss in the second half like they did when he's fresh going against a defense that, is sucking wind a little bit. I think that could be maybe the mix that works a little bit better than the way that they've gone about it so far early on this year.
Yeah, someone close to Singletary was messaging me during the game. He said he had 6 receptions in his junior year at FAU, his entire season, and he had 9 today. So it just goes to show you that he is a player that's able to kind of add to his repertoire. He's not just a guy that can run the ball. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. I thought all 3 backs at times today made some nice plays. James Cook, after failing to catch one of the balls that were thrown out his way, really rebounded nicely with some big catches in the second half. Zach Moss had that monster run down the sidelines, but you're right. Singletary once again looked the part of that player that should stay on the field. He's good at picking up blitzers. He's good at catching the ball in the backfield. And when that line is able to open up some lanes, which they really struggled to do today with all those backups, he rushes the ball with, at least in my opinion, with the most confidence of all the backs that the Bills have.
Mm-hmm. The backfield situation, Ryan, it's an interesting one because I feel like what we saw happen today, and I want to get to the super chat from Thomas Falzone, and we will in a moment. But while we're on this, I want to hit it. I think the inability that the Bills have shown to run at times, even with Singletary, 9 for 13, it's creating a little bit of a problem. And I think you saw it play out here today, is that their drives, like Josh Allen has to be the run game and the pass game at times. And I think that their long drives and these plotting drives, part of the reason they're not hitting on some of those big plays in a game like this is because teams are not going to respect their run game until they're able to do it. And I know he broke the one big one that I think really helped in the second half, but look at the final score, Ryan. It was, let me just bring it up here. I want to go back to the exact game book here. Sorry, I was kind of managing the message. We got a couple super chats here, Ryan, so we're going to get to those in a minute. The Bills, they scored 5 points in the second half, and that's just not going to get it done on the road in most games. I know the Dolphins offense struggled, but you got to do more in the run game in particular.
Yeah, I agree completely. It's something that they're still kind of working through. It's maybe the one area that Ken Dorsey has to really kind of figure out going forward here. You're going to have some big games still on the horizon. You have the Ravens, the Steelers, the Chiefs, and the Packers all coming up here in the near future. So the sooner the Bills can figure out getting the run game going or figuring out the best way to utilize the backs, the better it's going to be for this team overall.
All right, Thomas Falzone dropping the $9.99 super chat. My man, not elevating Shakir is surprising. Just missed opportunities. Really just need to get healthy. Can't wait for the defense to come back healthy in the O-line. Dorsey is a legend. So, giving some shout outs here. I think that the Shakir piece, when he missed that block last week in that game, Ryan, I thought that this DMP was on the way. Like I did not expect him to play today, even with the banged up nature. And honestly, I think maybe a bigger surprise to me was, and I thought he actually did a really solid job, was the Bills going to Jamarcus Ingram off of the bench when Christian Benford got hurt instead of veterans like Saran Neal and Cam Lewis. Now Ingram, for those that don't know, is undrafted free agent this year. He's a rookie out of the University of Buffalo, somebody that really just didn't get a lot of acclaim coming out of UB. I don't think he was even somebody that was on a lot of teams' radar. and he's hung around. He had a really solid summer. Everybody you talk to in the building about him has good things to say. And they put him out there today in a big spot. And he's a lengthy guy. He's a big kind of rangy type of player. You don't think that he's the kind of guy that you want to send out there against Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, but I thought he did a pretty good job. He gave up one catch, I think, slipped a little bit on a Jalen Waddle play, but for that spot, hats off to Jamarcus Ingram. Maybe I should go back and give him my Toolsy player of the game.
Yeah, no, definitely well-deserved. Going back to that first super chat, though, I think the missed block by Shakir played a role in it. I think the fact that at the bottom of the roster, the Bills were leaning, obviously going with a guy like Jake Kumaro, who also exited the game with an injury because of his special teams play, obviously. So when you're trying to decide the last receiver to keep, you have to kind of look at everything. Jamison Crowder is your kick and punt returner right now. Yes, Shakir could probably step up and do that because he was the number one punt returner on the initial depth chart this season. But the Bills have roles for a lot of these guys. And right now, it's just Shakir is the odd man out. Now, if Kumaro's injury is something serious and he doesn't play on Sunday, well, then he'll be elevated. He'll get some opportunities to kind of redeem himself after the missed block he had on Monday night against Tennessee and see what he can do as a pass catcher in this offense.
Mm-hmm. Johnny over on YouTube with another super chat. You ever see a team go through this in one game? And I think everybody on both sides of the press box today, one of the most common refrains was, I cannot believe what Buffalo is going through in this game. It was almost like at points, are they going to have enough to finish it? And you mentioned the offensive line. I mean, we could have been in a spot in this game, Ryan Talbot, one more injury to Reggie Gilliam lining up and playing some inside tackle or guard.
It's wild. And, it's kind of ironic, too, because we joked about that at training camp this year, not because of the injuries, but we said something about him being the Swiss Army knife. And one of the players said something about him lining up at offensive line if necessary. And he joked and said he would definitely do it. Well, this was not a joking matter. The Bills were almost at that point where maybe they would have needed a fullback there. So they are very depleted on the offensive line. You have to really hope that a lot of these injuries are nothing too serious, that you'll get Mitch Morse back on Sunday, and that some of the guys that exited today's game will be ready to go as well for a big matchup against Baltimore.
Mm-hmm. Let Tops do all the work for your game day and tailgating spreads. It's perfect for game day or any day. Visit Tops Carryout Cafe for hot-to-go pizzas. Cheese and pepperoni large is $14. Jumbo chicken wings, 10 count, $14. Tops' legendary breakfast pizza, a large, is $20. Pizza or taco log, 6 count, $7.69. Baby back rib sections for $5.99 a pound, plus sub sandwiches, wraps, apps, sides, and so much more. Visit topsmarkets.com/redzone for the complete menu of ready-to-enjoy fan favorites. I was a little bit sidetracked here, Ryan, because I just found out my flight is delayed tomorrow. There's a hurricane coming into town, and it looks like maybe things are going to get a little bit interesting from a travel perspective.
Yeah, that's not ideal. I hope you can get out of Miami ASAP, maybe find another way to drive somewhere and catch a flight elsewhere if need be. But yeah, it sounds like the weather there is going to get serious pretty quickly. So prayers up to anyone that lives there and hope that it's not as bad. Hurricane Ian, I believe, and that you guys can all get home here to Western New York.
Indeed. I did want to take a second to talk about the Miami fan base a little bit. I tweeted it out last night. I was walking around down on the Fort Lauderdale Strip there, and it was amazing how many Miami fans I saw being vocal, right? Like when the Buffalo fans usually take over a city, it's very Buffalo based. I think a lot of the local fans kind of take a step back. But there was a quiet confidence, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed some of the interactions that I saw, and it really does feel like this rivalry is back. This was the 4th time I've been in this stadium since I returned to the beat, Ryan. I couldn't believe how many Dolphins fans were in this house. I didn't know that many Dolphins fans existed. I'm sorry. I know that's going to feel like a shot, but I've been here for 4 years, and I've never seen anything like this. They were loud. They introduced a fight song after touchdowns that I didn't even know existed. Von Miller said after the game, it was an electric environment, atmosphere, and it's cool. Like, it takes me back to my younger days when the Dolphins were the main rival of the Bills, right? Like, I grew up in that. Dan Marino, Jim Kelly, and we've had, I think the whole NFL world suffered through the dynasty that is the New England Patriots, and everybody needed a break from it. And it feels like now that these are like the 2 teams in the division. I still think the Bills are considerably better, but I think they're going to be fun games to watch all of a sudden.
Yeah, I agree with that. And listen, kudos to the Dolphins fans. They were very loud on the broadcast. You could hear them, and you see Josh Allen having to communicate with his linemen and receivers on plays. So they did bring it today. There were some antics from fans post game going through and giving it to some Bills fans with some vulgar language. Not kudos to people like that. Be proud of the win, but act like you've been there before. But overall, yeah, Miami was definitely loud, and they were very interested in the outcome of this game. Really wanted to get that win against Buffalo.
Mm-hmm. I think we saw another super chat in here. We'll get to it. I hated the pick of Bernard at the time, and even more now. He looks very impressive on film. How was he a third-round pick? It should have been an offensive lineman. All right, by chance over on YouTube. Thank you for the super chat. A little bit puzzling. We haven't seen a lot of Bernard. He hasn't played a lot. I mean, Taron Johnson is in that role currently. He kind of is that hybrid between linebacker and slot nickel cornerback. We've seen him on special teams, and I think the special teams units for the Bills have been pretty good. Now, if you're saying the Bills should have addressed the offensive line at that spot in the draft, listen, I'll listen to that. I don't have any problem with that at all. I know that they went out and they signed Roger Saffold, who I thought struggled at times again today. I think it's been a little bit of an up and down start for Roger Saffold. And this is something we talked about in the offseason, Ryan. He's on the downward trend of his career. Like the pass blocking metrics on advanced metrics on Roger Saffold, they're not good over the last couple of years. That's where he struggles the most. And lo and behold, in this offense, what are offensive linemen doing the most? They're pass blocking. So that's definitely a problem. I thought, things broke down up front. I thought Melvin Ingram played really well today. I think he finished with 2 sacks, and the Bills struggled to block him. And even when they weren't blitzing, and I think the combination of the blitz packages that they put in, that they had executed, paired with the effectiveness of some of their defensive linemen, Ingram being the most consistent, it gave the Bills problems. And now Josh Allen still threw for 400 yards, and this offense moved the ball. But I thought they really clamped down in the red zone. And you got to tip your hat, if you're the Bills, like Von Miller said, to what the Dolphins were able to do defensively today.
Yeah, Ingram's been a little bit of a thorn in the side for the Bills for a few years now. I believe he was in the Pittsburgh game last year that
Yep.
had a big performance. I think then he was released and signed by the Chiefs, and he might have made a play or two for them as well. So he's someone that's had Buffalo's number and the offensive line's number a little bit. Before he exited with the heat illness, one of the plays I believe is he just like blew right by Spencer Brown, really got by him. So yeah, they dialed up some good pressure. They got to Josh Allen. They took advantage of Buffalo's offensive line and all the injuries to it. There were some good things that Miami did. This is not 100% the Bills, costing themselves the game. Miami did a few nice things. That long ball from Tua to Jalen Waddle, where the Bills only sent 3. Kudos to him though for nailing that throw. Some nice play calls dialed up. They did some good things today. There's no taking that away from them. But the Bills, obviously, at the end of the day, there's going to be a lot when they go back and watch the film that they would love to have back.
Will Phelan over on YouTube wants us to give a birthday shout out to his good friend Ben Guisto. So happy birthday, Ben. I think you share a birthday with James Cook, if I'm not mistaken. I think today was his birthday.
Ben. Yes, happy birthday. So that's pretty cool that your friend's willing to go out and get you a super chat for a birthday gift. So hope it's been a good one.
All right, let's move this right along. What are some other performances that you want to highlight before we wrap this thing up, Ryan Talbot?
Matt Milano minus the pick 6. I still thought he had a really good game, had some tackles right at the line of scrimmage, having a really nice season to date so far. You mentioned Josh Allen throwing for 400 yards, rushing for 40 plus, really carrying the team on his back. And then I'm also going to say, kudos to that secondary. I know they came up short. They lost the game. They gave up a few of the longer passes, but considering how banged up they were, the way that they limited Tua in that offense, I thought that they played very well in the face of adversity.
Yeah, I definitely think that Milano has been a firecracker for the Bills. I mean, he had the pass breakup, obviously 4 tackles, but he's flying them around. And I think, you want to look to a spot to credit, a couple of veterans for the ineffectiveness of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle for the most part, considering when the game they're coming off of last week. I look at Milano and Edmonds in coverage. I think that, they did a nice job setting the tone. And then, I thought the biggest key piece to the defense today was Taron Johnson. he was flying around. He was making tackles. Even in the run game, his toughness and his awareness and his reaction time, like, pushing a run outside, not letting I think it was Chase Edmonds or it might've been Mostert on the play, cut back inside, ended up leading to a drive stop on the play that I'm referring to. He was just really good in coverage today. I thought that they played really sound. And, this was Jaquan Johnson's first real big time opportunity, right? Damar Hamlin, same thing. I talked to him after the game. He seemed unbothered, even by the big play that he gave up to Jalen Waddle down the middle. It looked like a bit of miscommunication. I thought when I was watching it live that it was a single high look where, Damar Hamlin was on the back end. I think his representative tweeted at me and said it was a cover 2 look and that I got to do my homework, which is fair. So I asked Damar Hamlin about it and he said they were in cover 2. So obviously just, you're in a situation where he said the hats off to the wide receiver making a good play, but I also wonder how much, if Micah Hyde's back there, if Tua feels comfortable unleashing that kind of pass. And that's nothing to say about Damar Hamlin's game. I thought he was good. I thought when they used him as a blitzer, even getting in on that sack where Greg Rousseau won his rep and helped, I think they ended up splitting the sack in what I saw there at the end. But, a lot of inexperienced players coming in and playing an important role with adversity, the heat conditions on the road, divisional game against a really good team. There's a lot of good things to take away from this if you're the Bills, like Von Miller said.
Yeah, and there are no moral victories in the NFL. The standings still say 2-1. But I think you're right. This is this kind of game that can bring the team closer together. The fact that they fought so hard in difficult circumstances and really could have come away with the win. So we'll see how that goes going forward. But tough losses happen. It's a long season. This one kind of reminds me of the Titans game from last year where Allen's not able to get that last half yard or yard on the QB sneak. They weren't able to get those tough yards near the goal line. So, it's another case of the Bills failing to win a close game. Maybe that's a concern if you're a Bills fan. Every win of theirs, the past 20 have been by double digits. So we do need to see them win some close games here soon, but the opportunities were certainly there.
I'm just looking through. Somebody said that I think we missed a super chat here. Bernardo Dietze from Brazil. What is up, Bernardo? 0-7 for the Bills in the last 7 one-score games. Do you guys think the coaches are missing something? They need to fix that to have a shot at the Super Bowl. Thank you, Bernardo, for chiming in here. And let's get into that, because I actually got into DM today about a fan that was kind of disappointed in Sean McDermott. I get a lot of those DMs usually on game days when they lose, but I thought it was a situation today where the one issue I had with McDermott, if I were to have one, was when they were driving and they settled for the field goal that I think was blocked on the 4th and 4. I go for it in that situation. You have the best player on the field. I know that your offense is struggling, like you deal with all this, but I think that kind of decision it sends a message. I mean, your defense to that point, was playing pretty good, keeping you in the game. You take a chance, you extend the drive. Maybe Tua doesn't come down. I think they ended up scoring on the next drive. I'll have to look that up. But overall, did I think that this was a place to blame on Sean McDermott kind of game? I wouldn't go there. They have to be a little bit more competitive in close games, but there was a lot of circumstance to this one, Ryan.
Yeah, definitely circumstance to this one. And again, Gabe Davis drops a touchdown pass. He gets 2 feet in and it gets ripped away from him. So I shouldn't say drop, but he doesn't complete the action of the catch. Josh Allen short arms a throw to Isaiah McKenzie that would have resulted in a touchdown. The offensive line most likely prevents Buffalo from being able to go for any kind of quarterback sneaks because you're afraid of the under the center type of snap. So there's a lot of little things, but missed field goal, botch snap before halftime. A lot of points the Bills could have had, not to mention, again, Taron Johnson could have had a pick six in the first half had he been looking at that pass that Teddy Bridgewater threw. And that's not really on him. He was making sure Tyreek Hill didn't catch the ball and then kind of getting yardage with it, and then Matt Milano as well. So Buffalo had more than enough opportunities, just didn't capitalize on set opportunities.
Yeah. A lot of energy from Miami Dolphins fans, even in the chat here, coming into the Bills post-game show to bring that energy. And listen, it's been a tough run for them. I mean, 7 straight losses to a team will get in your feelings. And I guess you take a win any way you can get it. I remember during the Bills run against the Patriots when they thumped them. I think it was like a season opener game. I can't remember which one it was, but maybe was it the Lawyer Malloy game? Was that the one where they like, or Sam Adams game? There was one in that run where it was like, all right, they finally beat the Patriots. And then it was just,
that
it went on
41-0, both of them. Yeah. Sam Adams had the pick six in that one. Malloy had come over after getting cut. So pretty much knew, I think, everything the Patriots were trying to do in that matchup. So yeah. And listen, some people were joking that this was the Dolphins regular season Super Bowl. And in a way, I think it was for some of the fans, and that's not a shot at the Dolphins fan base, but after they beat the Patriots in week 1, they're the fans chanting, "We want Buffalo. We want Josh Allen." This was their regular season Super Bowl. Now, obviously, the actual Dolphins team has aspirations of making the playoffs. I think they have a good chance of being a wild card team this season. So maybe they'll be able to get better as the year goes on and make some noise. But if I'm a Bills fan, I just kind of, you flush this one away and you move on. Definitely didn't get any kind of impression that Miami was superior in any way, shape, or form. So if I'm a Bills fan, I'm sure you're bothered by the loss, but I wouldn't be too bothered by it.
That's a great point, Ryan Talbot. I think that is a great final thought to leave with everybody. We will be back with 2 shows next week. So we're going to do, I think, either Wednesday night or Thursday night. We got to talk about that. Maybe we'll do a Thursday night show if that works for you, Ryan, because we don't have a Friday show because I'll be traveling to Baltimore and Ryan will actually be in Buffalo for an event. So we won't have a preview show. So we're going to do one show, probably Thursday night. So get ready for that. And then we'll obviously be with you after the game in Baltimore next week. All right. Tops markets now through October 29th. So you got about another month to go. Every time you use your Tops Bonus Plus card to purchase participating brands like Pepsi, Campbell's, and Smithfield, and so many more, you're automatically entered for a chance to win a Tailgate and Go kitchen for the ultimate tailgating experience. As seen on Shark Tank, Tailgate and Go Kitchen is a portable outdoor kitchen and dry box made for any outdoor cooking setting. Set it up in the backyard, backwoods, or stadium parking lot in seconds. Comes with built-in cutting boards, paper towel holder, bottle opener, spice rack, food divider compartments, storage net, in lid, and knife magnet. I mean, is there anything this thing doesn't have, Ryan Talbot?
It's the Reggie Gilliam of these tailgate coolers. Has everything, can do everything, Matt. It's so versatile.
Scott Moranto is wondering, will that be before or after the Bengals smack the Dolphins back to reality on Thursday Night Football? Whoa, shots fired. We'll probably it'll be in the later side if we do it Thursday because I teach class on Thursday night. So we'll talk about that. We'll get it posted for you guys and give you plenty of heads up. And we will be right back in a couple days. Enjoy what's left of your Sunday. Have a great week. For Ryan Talbot, I'm Matt Parrino. Thanks for listening to Shout, watching Shout.